Yep, the Freeman Movement is it's a very wide-ranging topic, really, but it's essentially a whole group of us who've discovered that we're actually slaves in a large open prison. It's a new form of slavery. It's not overt. It's a type of slavery that we think we're free. As a whole bunch of us are trying to poke at the fences and figure out how to actually live free.
How would you define that slavery?
It's not the same kind of slavery as in the the 1700s. Those slaves knew who the masters were, and they knew they were slaves. This type of slavery is that we think we're free. We think we've got free choice. But when you really think about it, we're controlled by money and by corporations and entities and like the police and the courts, and we're not really free at all. You try not paying your bills, just in the conventional way, just not pay your bills, and you'll find the machinery starts working against you.
What does the Freemason movement strive to do? What's their agenda?
The Freemason movement?
Sorry, the Freeman movement, not the Freemason movement.
What's it trying to do?
Yeah, what's kind of the agenda? What do they strive to do?
The Freeman movement doesn't really have an agenda as such, but we're trying to live freely and liberate everybody else if we can, and expose how we're being forced to live as slaves.
Okay. What kind of things are the Freemans? You want to say Freemasons for some weird reason. What kind of things are the Freeman's movement doing? I made it sound like a catalogue then. What kind of things is the Freeman movement doing in order to liberate people? Can you give us some examples of things that you'd be doing to liberate people and make them free?
Okay. Well, letting people realise that the courts and the police, the government are all corporations, and they're working together against us in order to essentially to tax us so that they can, use that tax. I'm getting all mixed up here. In order to tax us and use that money to further enslave us, essentially. There's a bit more of an agenda there that I'm not sure you want to go into, but it's a bit of a sinister agenda, essentially to depopulate the planet, and it's using our money to do it, because money controls us and we work for money, and we're inadvertently working for our own destruction.
Isn't it just that kind of the way that things are, though, that the police governors, that we pay taxes, isn't that how it should be? Or is it just because we accept that that's how it should be, we don't look a little bit deeper?
We accept that's how it should be because we're taught at school how it should be. We're taught with the media, with the TV programs we watch, the newspaper articles we read, the films we watch. It all shows us. It's all social conditioning to show us that this is the way we have to live. It's not that way at all. We shouldn't have to pay to live on this planet. We're the only species on this planet that does. As soon as you stop paying, your life changes significantly. Eventually you can't live. You don't have shelter. You don't have food. What other animal has to live like that?
Very good. What does it mean to be a Freeman? What changed about your life when you became a Freeman? What's the most resounding things that changed? If I declared myself a Freeman, for example, what would change in my life?
The fear, or the lack of fear. It was the biggest change.
Can you start with if you became a Freeman?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm getting in conversation.
And just remember, you're talking about fears. Just if you become a Freeman, then go for it like that. Okay.
Right. So if you were to become a Freeman, I guess the first thing that would fall away from you is the fear. This whole system runs on fear. If you don't pay your TV license, you know, there are detector vans coming around and they'll find you and they'll fine you and they'll, you know, if you don't pay the fine, you'll be, you know, you'll be imprisoned, and it's all fear drilling into you, fear, fear, fear. But once you realise your power, once you realise that, you know, hang on, there aren't actually any detector vans out there, you know, and there is no law that says you have to pay a TV licence, and they haven't got any legal right or lawful right to ask you to pay anything unless you sign some kind of contract. And do they have a contract? Well, actually, no, they don't. So, you know, you find you start to lose the fear, and when you get further into it, you know, you end up, it's a long process, actually. I think it's the 5 stages of grief, but you eventually get to a point where you accept what's going on and you have no part of it. You know, they come to your door. Do you have a contract? No? Well, goodbye. You just don't engage with them.
So people like the TV license company, what would be another example?
Council tax.
Council tax. These people don't have the right to do what they do.
They have no lawful basis for whatever they do. There's, you know, they might claim they have a legal basis. Now, legal is a different thing altogether. It's essentially based on contract. You have to contract with them before it becomes law. And if you do, then yes, it's law. Now you're bound. But until you contract with them, then it's an offer. They're offering services, and you know, you're free to choose to accept those services or you know, not accept those services.
How will the world around me, the people that of officialdom, how will they react to me declaring myself a freeman?
Well, first of all, you don't really declare yourself a freeman as such. You know, it's a change up here. You've got to start realising that you have the power. It initiates from you. The authority and the power doesn't come from them. It comes from you. So it's not a question of declaring yourself a freeman. It's realising who you are and living that way. In this society, there is no way of actually living free at this point. You know, I've had the idea to find some land somewhere, you know, buy a piece of land and build my own house and live apart from the system. The system will not allow you to do that. They will come for you and kick you off your own land and force you to live the way they want you to live. So at this point, there's no way of actually living free, but you can live free up here by extricating yourself from the system. And it's easy to do because you don't need their system. They make it seem like you need them, you need their benefits. And along with their benefits comes a whole load of liabilities. So yeah, it starts up here. Yeah, as soon as you realise what's going on, it changes the way you interact with the world.
Is the Freeman movement a growing movement? Are people becoming more aware of this?
It is absolutely a growing movement. When I first became aware of it, essentially it was a guy in Canada who started it. His name is Rob Menard. And you know, there's a little group around him, and there are a few people in England who had watched some of his videos and listened to some of his talks. Maybe a few people in the creditors in commerce side of it. But yeah, when I first started, there wasn't that many people really looking at this. Every day there are more people waking up. And it's inevitable because the society is basically clamping down on us. They're bringing out more and more rules and regulations. You know, you can't put your bin out on the wrong day now without getting slapped with a fine. And people are starting to look up from X Factor and say, well, something's wrong here. You know, you can't.
£5 fine.
Just start, just pick up from where you were.
You can't actually live your daily life without, breaking one of these rules. There's something like 70,000 rules out there, statutes, legislation, and every day you're breaking one of them at least. Every day, it's just a matter of time before you get caught for one of them. And that's it. The police are patrolling the streets, waiting for somebody to break one of their rules, and it's a statistical, likelihood that they'll catch somebody because you can't avoid it. There are so many rules, so it's a constant revenue stream for the government. And I've forgotten what the actual question was in the first place.
That's all right.
If it's a case that you don't have to pay your council tax, you don't have to allow bailiffs to come and take away your stuff, you don't have to pay your TV licence. If this gets out there to the masses and everybody realises this, how do you think the authorities will react?
Again, it depends on how many. If it's a slowly growing movement, they start to clamp down because they've got the fear factor. They've got the police and the bailiffs and all that sort of thing. But if it was a mass awakening, then there's nothing they can do. It's like the poll tax. When everybody was up in arms about the poll tax, and there were protest riots and everything, they had to back down and say, OK, well, we're dropping the poll tax. The thing is that human nature means that as soon as that victory was won, they quietly slipped it in as council tax, and everybody was still sort of jubilant from beating the government of a poll tax that they ignored it. So we can do it. And we just have to be vigilant as well after the fact.
If you could describe what it is to be a freeman, how would you describe it, put simply, as being free, like a sense of freedom?
Okay, what it is to be a freeman, it's not really a question of feeling free or being free, because we're not free. We can't live in a free way in this society at this point. But what it is to me is losing the fear. You start to realise who you are in this system, that the power actually lies with you, and the people with so-called authority don't actually have it. They ask you to grant them the authority. So once you've realised that, you can't really be in fear of them.